Hi all, welcome back to this series on SAP S/4HANA. So in this video, we'll discuss about this classic three-tier client server architecture of SAP. See, most of SAP applications run in a three-tier client server environment. Instead of using a single execution process, the application consisting of multiple processes running across multiple hosts, we can say computers. So these processes, they cooperate across a network to perform the necessary processing for that. Each tag here, you can see here database layer, we have application layer, then presentation layer. Each tier has its own function to perform and typically runs on separate hosts. So this architecture provides multiple benefits, including the flexibility, high performance, extensibility, and ease of development. See, when SAP moved from SAP business suite solutions like your old ERP systems like ECC to SAP S/4HANA, they kept that three-tier client server architecture. But however, many components of that architecture continue to evolve. But the core point you need to understand is, even in SAP S/4HANA also, they do follow this classic three-tier client server architecture. So SAP supports a wide variety of hardware vendors and configurations. So the hardware that a specific system will run, that purely depends on that particular customer situation. The customers, they have a lot of choices. So they can go with cloud, on-premise systems. They can go with the different vendors. They can opt for different machine types and capacities. And that too supports multiple operating systems. Now, see, if you look at the components of this three-tier architecture for SAP S/4HANA, which they use, so as you can see, the database layer is right at the bottom. First, have a look at that. See, basically, this database layer here provides the data storage and additional application functionality also. So as most of the people know, that data is stored in a series of tables in a relational database. So when an SAP application is installed, at the time of installation, the installation program will automatically create all the tables, indices, views, all that, which will be used by the application. And these SAP applications uses SQL to access the data. And apart from that, additionally, this database engine provides additional analytical and application processing capabilities also. So that processing is utilized for data-intensive operations. See, historically, if you see, SAP supported a wide variety of relational databases. But as already we discussed in the earlier videos, that SAP, all the future developments is focused on SAP HANA. Like an example, if you look at the business suite solutions offered earlier, like PCC and all that, they used to support different databases like Oracle, SQL Server, DB2 and all that. So basically, they use that ANSI SQL, which is limited to the ability of SAP ABAP to take advantage of many database-specific features. That's the reason why, those business suite solutions, when they offer the database, is only used for data storage. But now, when it comes to SAP S/4HANA, which runs only on SAP HANA database, basically they use a skill script, which is the proprietary dialect of SQL to access the database. So that enables SAP S/4HANA to use a complete set of HANA features and functionalities and all the engines we have processing methods. So that's the flexibility they offered, and we also discussed about this advantage of developing an application on HANA database in the previous video. See, this database layer can run on one or multiple hosts. They have the flexibility also, single host or multi-host environments they can set up depending on the customer requirements. The next, coming to the application layer, in SAP S/4HANA, the application layer is delivered by a ABAP platform. So ABAP platform is basically SAP's technical platform which is used for developing and running business applications in SAP environment. So most of the people know ABAP, Advanced Business Application Programming, proprietary programming language developed by SAP and used to develop different SAP applications. Right. So this earlier they used to call it as applications of ABAP, like we were applications of ABAP, and later on when it comes to SAP S/4HANA, they started using the term ABAP platform. So don't get confused with that. See, over a period of time, the capability of this application layer has evolved as the technology and functional requirements have evolved. While ABAP has been the primary platform for developing SAP applications, but as there is a need for the new innovations, particularly which we should be able to access through internet, particularly to leverage the World Wide Web, the SAP came up with, SAP has introduced something like WebBeam Pro. Again, it's a user interface technology developed by SAP for building business web applications in ABAP. So, but later on what happened is with SAP S/4HANA, SAP has introduced a new user experience or user interface called Fiori. So Fiori is the interface which they use. It is design system for all SAP applications. And there is a lot of flexibility they have with Fiori. So the Fiori apps, what they develop, they can be accessed through browser or any mobile devices. And with SAP Fiori, they are able to standardize the user experience and make SAP functionality seamlessly accessible across any devices, laptops, tablets, desktops, anything like that. So in one of the video in the coming sessions, I will discuss about that Fiori a little more detail. But Fiori is the user interface which they are totally in line now. It's having a lot of advantages when you compare with the UIs they offered earlier. So again, this ABAP platform, along with application components, it can be deployed on multiple hosts. So you have that flexibility there. And again, SAP supports on-premise, cloud, and hybrid deployments of SAP S/4HANA. And coming to the next layer, presentation layer, which provides the user interface basically that is accessed by the end users. So you can say that front-end client. So this presentation layer, here you can see that, typically represented by a thin client. The client contains no application logic, no data is stored there. So it simply facilitates access the application functionality at the application layer. So as I mentioned that SAP supports several interfaces earlier, like SAP GUI, Business Client. Now you have SAP Fiori. So depending on the interface they use, the front end may run on one or multiple end user platforms. Like they can use laptops, desktops, tablets, and mobile phones as we discussed. So prior to SAP S/4HANA, the primary front-end line consisting of desktop applications called SAP GUI. They used it for everything, like a universal client for performing application functions, administration, monitoring, and development, and SAP ABAP application. So even SAP GUI renders DIN-Pro screens that have been developed for ABAP programs. So there are, again, different flavors of SAP GUI offered by SAP. And then, again, as we know with SAP S/4HANA, they've introduced Fiori, which is basically a new tile-based user interface utilizing HTML5 and running on a web browser. So that Fiori is now the primary presentation layer designed to provide some role-based adaptive user interface or user experience for SAP applications. So they'll have something called Fiori Launchpad, and which is having the capability to render the screens created using different tools. So the new applications developed for SAP S/4HANA, they're created and designed as native theory applications, but they cannot be accessed through SAP GUI or business client, right? So that's how the presentation layer also evolved. And this client typically runs on individual machines specific to the end users. So it could be any desktop computer or tablet, and a variety of operating systems are supported like Windows, Unix, and Mac. Like that. So this typical classic three-tier architecture is followed for most of the SAP applications, particularly when it comes to SAP S/4HANA. So even though it's a new application they have developed and designed from scratch, they did continue with this three-tier client server architecture application, I mean the architecture. And point we need to understand is they do follow this architecture, but the components have evolved. Components of that different layers have evolved over a period of time. But that's something which we need to understand. Okay. So hope this has given an idea for you. We'll be continuing on the series. Next, we'll be knowing about the different deployment options we have for SAP S/4HANA. Please stay tuned.